Welcome, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama. I'm Parker Edmondson here with my good friend Doug Tinkham and one Mr. Matt Blevins from Blevins Bicycle Company.
How's it going?
Sans a hat.
Yeah, no hat.
No hat this week.
Wow,
No hat. He's
rocking
going
the
hat-free.
no hat look. Yeah.
I'm trying.
Matt, of course, owns Blevins Bicycle Company, and that's down on Whitesburg, about as far as you can get down on Whitesburg before you run back into the Parkway. Matt, one thing I want to talk to you about today is preventive maintenance on bicycles. You know, we spend a good coin on our bike, and then sometimes we neglect our bicycles, and it makes a small problem become a big problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see that in your shop?
Quite often, almost on a daily basis. So with this being more of a tri-specific oriented show, we can talk about tri-bikes in particular and some problems we see, you know. Headsets in particular are big issues on tri-bikes, and if people don't know what a headset is, that's your bearing assembly that allows your handlebars and wheel to turn smoothly. And what happens is on a tri-bike with that really aggressive forward position, all of your upper body sweat from your face, neck, chest,
And
is
tears.
And tears, yeah.
Lots of
It's
tears.
all falling right there on that bearing assembly in the front, your stem, your headset, and all those metal pieces. And even though a lot of them are nice, high-quality steel, some of it even stainless, it's still rust. And so a 5-minute job can turn into an hour-and-a-half job trying to beat bearings out of a frame and drill out bolts. And, you know, the main thing is we love doing maintenance, and we love charging for it, but we don't want to have to say, hey, this is going to be a $10 job, and the next thing you know, you're going to need a new headset, you're going to need a new stem, and then you're looking at $150, $200.
So you
buy a new bike.
Yeah. So you get off the bike after a ride, and you've sweated. It's hot outside, as everybody knows now, about 100 degrees in North Alabama. What do you suggest that the rider do once they get off the bike, or they get back to the house and they have a chance to look at their bike? What should they be doing?
It doesn't have to be after every single ride, but at least every 3 rides. I would get a bicycle-specific water displacer. Specifically,
What is that?
So
A hose with a sprayer?
It's basically like basically like WD-40 on steroids. The stuff we like to use is GT85.
What was the generic term again?
Water displacer.
Water
Yeah.
displacer.
Yeah.
So you want the big orange can of the
GT85. Yeah, that to me is some of the best stuff out there. Main thing is,
what will it do?
it will actually, in wherever you spray it, wherever you sweat on, it will actually get down into those crevices and help to push the sweat and the water from your sweat out of the parts. And so hose those down. I mean, just, you know, of course, be careful around your brake areas and your rims, because that's the last thing you want is any kind of lubricant on your rims. But push everything out and just wipe it down. That's it. That's all you have to do.
That was the giant beer cooler
Yeah.
that just closed.
Yeah, and of course, everybody knows we're here at the Straight to Ale Brewery on Lehman Ferry Road, one of the huge sponsors here of the show. I read an article the other day on Bicycle Magazine, or in Bicycle Magazine, and it talked about going through and tightening and making sure that bolts were tight on your bike.
Right.
And I thought, I hadn't done that all year.
The wheel bolt.
I mean, yeah. I mean, besides clamping the wheel onto the bike,
that's
I
highly
haven't
overrated.
I have not checked a single boat.
Yeah, that's something that we see come in quite often at the shop is everything on the bike will look okay. Then one thing we do all of our tune-ups is we always check the bolts, and it's almost every bike where we get either a half to a full turn on there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you need to be careful too, especially if you're clamping on any carbon part, like a seat post clamp, the clamp on your stem for a carbon bar or carbon steer tube. Invest in a torque wrench. They're not that expensive. For $100, which is not cheap, but you can break a $200 seat post by over tightening it. So
I know you're supposed to go as hard as
Lefty
you can
loosey,
until
righty
it squeaks, right? And then
Yeah.
that's when
as
the
soon
torque
as the
wrench.
vein pops out in your forehead, you
Yeah.
know that's approximately
You
right.
put the foot up on the frame and you pull as hard as you can.
That's
But
it.
yeah, I mean that's just I mean, what's it cost for a torque wrench? You
I said
know?
$90 to $100 for
I go to Harbor
Yeah.
Freight. They're like
Yeah.
$3.
There you go. Yeah, get the same thing. Yeah, just as long as you do that with the right proper size bits, you shouldn't have to worry about breaking or snapping anything.
And those things will last forever. And so I guess if you don't have something tight on the frame or somewhere on your bike, that probably causes torque or movement that there shouldn't be and causes excessive wear.
Exactly. Yeah, you can wear an expensive part out really quick and not even know you're doing it.
Now, Doug rode for 25 miles
I
the
rode
other
25,
day.
yeah, I did.
So he's
I
back
did.
on.
I'm back on.
Now that he's re-familiarized himself with the bike, that thing that was catching spider webs in the garage, what do you suggest that Doug do to his bike?
Check your tire pressure, clean and lube the drivetrain.
I just got it back from that. It has like 25 miles on it since
you don't
checked
need to
it
do
out.
anything. If we messed it, you don't have to mess with it for a while.
There you go.
So.
Yeah.
Now, 25 miles is going to be
the
your
beginning
monthly,
of a long love affair with the bike.
I'm trying to get Doug to go to tour the Rocky Top next weekend. Little Century up there in Knoxville.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little bit of climbing.
Do
and
it.
Doug loves to climb.
I do love to climb.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
So, yeah. Listen, Matt, we appreciate you coming in. Where's the 911 address to the bike shop?
We are about as far south on Whitesburg Drive as you can go, just across the street from the post office.
There you go. Go down and see Matt if you got some maintenance issues on your bike or just to have a great cup of coffee. Matt Blevins, Blevins Bicycle Company.
Thank you.
We'll be back after these messages.
Show 1,
Brenda
segment 2.
McGovern. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama. We're brought to you by Straight to L Brewery here on Lehman Ferry Road, and we're here in the brew house this afternoon having the show. And we also have Red Bull as a sponsor for great energy drinks. And we have with us a special guest who gets to drink neither one of these.
Neither one.
But she's a great sport about it anyway, and that's Miss Brenda McGovern. Brenda, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Everybody in North Alabama knows Brenda from being
Seeing her on the podium.
Seeing her on the
every
podium.
event.
She's one of those national qualifiers year in and year out. She is just really a great triathlete. And we brought Brenda on today to talk about her nutrition issues that she has. She's, like a lot of athletes, has a nutrition problem in that she has celiac disease. And so how do you overcome that, Brenda, when you're training?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't know what was wrong. You do what you typically do. You carb load before a big event, and then have all my training go out the door race day because I couldn't understand it. And that's when a friend told me that I needed to get tested, and that's when I found out. And that's when I decided I had to make some life changes. So I'd find out that what normal people do to carb load, I could not.
So how long were you racing before you realized that you had celiac?
I didn't get diagnosed until 2010. So
And you had been racing how long?
for years.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
That's horrible because I imagine you finish a race or you're during a longer race and your body just quits or just wants to rebel against you.
Well, it rebels, and then it would frustrate the coaches that coached me that, like, you've done the training, what happened? And then what will happen is it'll make it look like, I choked at a race.
Yeah.
Really, it wasn't
And
that
you were
at all.
choking
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
things
just
that your
whatever.
body's allergic to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
So you wouldn't typically say carb load on just a regular training day when you're running, so you wouldn't have the issue until
yeah,
a
exactly.
race.
Exactly. So, the typical the night before, and then race day, boom.
and then so if you carbo load the night before, then someone's going to say hey, that's just nerves or that's something.
Yeah,
of
it
that.
must have been frustrating.
Or you-
What were you thinking? Did you think it was nerves?
That's
or?
what I really did. I really thought maybe it was that, and then it became a mental issue because I thought something's mentally wrong with me, or
Well, something's mentally wrong with
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
us. You don't have the market
yeah,
on that.
Yeah, and so I was frustrated because I've done the work, but I just couldn't perform like I'd done the work. So, and then somebody said, "You have the symptoms that my coworker has, and let's go get tested." And sure enough, from then on, then I started to have to make some changes, and it was gradual. I still didn't accept it, because I want to be normal,
Why be normal?
But what happens is you miss a lot of the social life because everybody back then, nobody did gluten-free anything. It's just come to surface right now, last couple of years. So now I can be social again.
Well, and you're also in the medical field,
Mhm.
so that's surprising that I guess it's so undiagnosed, the
Well, it is.
celiac, that
Well, they'll misdiagnose it as IBS, and that's what they'll say. And IBS is a syndrome. Oh, it's a syndrome. So in other words, they correlate that with mental, like you can control this. Well, no, I've got something else because I've been to all the doctors, and they said it's a syndrome.
and some of us go and we ride and we bike, and Doug laughs at me because one time we went to a buffet before a century ride, a 100-mile bike ride, and I'm sitting there eating fish that's somewhat warm.
It was lukewarm.
It was lukewarm
Yeah.
at best, and so some of us are able to eat just about anything and still go out there. And some athletes, like you, Brenda, you're not able to do that.
That's correct.
And
And so what I'll have to do is I eat a lot of whole foods. If it's not grown in the ground, I don't have it. So and that keeps it simple. Before it was like, okay, I had to research, I had to read labels, and stuff like that, and that's just how I deal with it now.
Okay. Well, Brenda, we're short on time today, but we're going to have you back next week. We're going to continue this conversation next week because I want to talk to you about living the gluten-free, training the gluten-free lifestyle.
Okay.
Can you come back next week?
Yeah, sure will.
Okay. Well, listen, Doug, we've got a few minutes to talk about some other things, but we'll be back now after these messages here on Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama. I'm Parker Edmiston. Got my good friend Doug Tinkham sitting next to me, and as always, we have Matt Broadhurst from Straight to Ale Brewery. Matt, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Matt has brought some manna. What do you say it? Manna?
Manna from heaven.
Manna from heaven, and that's this little brew here. Tell us about this brew.
So we were invited by this great organization called Ales for ALS. Basically what they do is there's a hop farm and a hop distributor organize it together. They send you a variety of hops that you can't get outside of this event, and they let you play with it. You brew a beer with it. Then what you do, you take out, put it in the market, and then you donate $1 per 16 ounces that you sell.
So ALS is
Lou Gehrig's
disease.
Yeah.
And so the national organization for ALS has picked certain breweries to do this?
Yeah, it's really cool. We kind of got this random email, and we didn't know what to think about it at first. We're like, oh. So we Googled it and found out that it is legit. And they give you this variety of hop. Most of them are test. It's a blend of hops that we use. Some of which aren't out in the market. They're test batch. They're something that they're a weird strain. They have like a number like HB216,
and they're radioactive.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to get to play with them. So we got a chance. They sent us I think 20 pounds of them, and then they just said,
now
make a beer with it.
People that don't know about brewing, unlike myself, is 20 pounds a lot?
No.
Okay. So what'd you make?
Not for us. Like a batch of Monkey Knot, like our big batch. That's 35 to 40 pounds, I believe, by the time it's finished. That we in the boil, in the dry hop, all throughout the process. 20 pounds gets you there. We did 20 barrels of this. It's a session IPA, so 4.25%.
What's the name of this great brew?
We're calling it. Alabama Sippa. So So ALS.
Yeah.
IPA. So
I like it.
I like it.
So that's what we're calling it in house right now. I don't know if that's what we'll stick with, but
they come up with some good names.
Yeah, they do.
we literally kegged it like an hour ago.
So how do you get this out to the different distributors?
So we're going to focus on selling the tap room. We are going to do an event in house, and then we're going to team up with a couple local restaurants and do nights with them where they donate a percentage of their proceeds already to a charity of your choice.
Okay.
Mellow Mushroom in Jones Valley is going to back us up on it. They do a Monday night where they donate 10% of all their sales to whatever charities there that night. So we're going to tie that into that. Not only are we going to get money off the beer, we're going to send double the money on the beer, and then they're also going to donate some of their proceeds off the actual food sales for the night.
So based on what you're able to do locally, I guess this won't make it out of the
you probably won't see
area.
it further. It's pretty much going to stay North Alabama.
Now, will it be canned or bottled or just draft?
Draft only.
Draft
only on this one. We're excited to do it. We tested it. We played with it. We did a couple different small batches with it, being very limited with what we were doing with the hops. And this, everybody's doing a session IPA nowadays, especially when it's 105 with heat index today.
Yeah, that was this morning at 5 a.m.
It was 100. It was literally, I think it was 102 on our thermometer in the brewery today until we finally kicked on the AC. So
when
it's
you say
perfect for that.
When you say a barrel, how many glasses do you?
I was thinking that. Good question.
So a barrel is 31 gallons go into a barrel of beer. Just kind of the best way to think of it. I could break it down further, but then
break it down.
It just keeps going and going and going. So 31 gallons in a barrel. All of our tanks are either a 110, a 40, or a 60 barrel. So you got to think like the big tanks are 3,331 gallons.
Wow.
I was in
math. I didn't know we were going to do math today.
I was in ninth grade math for 3 years.
Best 3 years of your life.
Best 3 years of my life. And I got a passing grade only because my dad had to come in and teach it. So,
Now,
how many barrels you said? Will they be quarter barrels, half barrels? How do you distribute it?
So we broke this down. I think by the time we filtered it, got it moved over to the bright tank, which is carbonation, then we kegged it. I think Nick actually just told me we had 72 quarter barrels to go out in the market.
Now, you guys have the best artwork in the beer world. Will you do some artwork for this?
Yeah. It's actually, I spent a little bit of my time today working on the art for that.
Cool. Were you in the air conditioning when you did that? Or
yeah,
in the heat?
well, yeah. I just locked myself in the office.
There you go.
AC. Yeah.
Or it'd be a stick figure if you were in the heat.
How about this for an idea? How about if you take one of those barrels and auction it off, put it out there online?
I think you're going to say load it in your car.
Well, that's the second barrel.
Well, legally, we couldn't do that.
I see that.
That's not to say that one of our retailers couldn't do that, but we legally could not.
So could you work with the pizza place and do that?
Yeah, we could work at the pizza place. We could work with, like Liquor Express or Damon out at Wish Your Beer, one of our other retailers that does draft sales.
It seems like that'd be great marketing for ALS. That'd be great marketing for Straight to Ale, and then for Mellow Mushroom or
and the
Liquor
Lucky
Express
winner.
and the Lucky Winner. And we're always looking for money to give away to a great cause, and ALS is that way.
Yeah, it's it's something. Everybody was doing the Ice Buck Challenge last year. You couldn't have gotten any of us to do that. But we're like,
except when it was 110.
Well, today you might have gotten us to do it. But we're like, oh, they want us to make a beer? Yeah. Can we drink it? Yeah, we'll do that. So,
and as always, you stand by your product.
Absolutely. It's this. Session IPAs are tricky. It's hard to do one under 5% and not get a weird mouthfeel to them. They usually come out really thin feeling in the mouth. Our head brewer Drew nailed this. It's fantastic.
Session means what?
Anything under 5%. So, we're not known for doing a whole lot under 5%. No. So I think we have 2 at 5 and then everything else.
Well, I think at 5%, you're still eligible for your AA meeting, and you can go in and with a clear conscience. I think you can. You'll sweat that out.
We talked about that earlier. You're AAA.
It's like cooking out, cooking out the alcohol when you use, something on the stove.
Yeah. It's something that, especially again Alabama summers, man. It's something you can drink a few of and. They just don't feel like they're weighing you down. You're not.
Life's weighing me down, man.
Well,
your beer is not.
Well, good. That's what we like to hear. It shouldn't.
Yeah. And so we've got this, and when will this be available out at?
Well, Mellow Mushroom, we're still working out the details on the actual date. It actually got finished sooner than we thought. We thought it was going to be ready next week, but today decided it was going to be ready. So as soon as we can get it out. So probably Monday we'll ship it to distributors. Then we'll start working the details on actual dates and times for events.
So when someone's looking to go to Liquor Express and buy a quarter keg of beer, then they can order this?
And odds are Liquor Express will actually do like a deal with them where they can put it on their draft wall. We just have to maintain what we're actually selling to them so we can make sure we donate the proper amounts.
Okay.
So.
And now an IPA doesn't have to be aged. It doesn't increase in taste or...
No. Okay. IPAs, usually you want to drink it, the fresher the better.
Okay.
Like we just released our Gorilla Knot, which is our Imperial IPA. That's... like me beating our distributors over the head saying it's got to be fresh. It's got to go out as quick as it can.
And so Matt Broadhurst from Straight to Ale, he's leading the way. 1 hour beer, and it's now in the glass, and it's on its way.
It was at 53 minutes when they cracked the keg.
Matt, thanks for being here, and we appreciate everything that Straight to Ale does. And we'll be back after these messages on Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama.
See you next week.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Another segment here on Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama. I'm Parker Edmondson with my good friend Doug Tinkham, and we're here at Straight to Ale Brewery on Lehman Ferry Road. Special guest with us this afternoon, and that's Casey Carter. Casey, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Casey's a trainer at CrossFit Nomad over in Madison, Alabama.
And does, in fact, have an Uncle Jimmy.
He does.
Do, yeah.
And Casey's going to talk to us about being a trainer and in training folks to do obstacle course races or just CrossFit competitions, etc.
Right.
How'd you get into training?
Well, I started about 6 months ago training endurance. We have a specific program at CrossFit Nomad. It's actually called the Mercury Project, kind of a spin on the November Project that the guys up in Boston and regionally do throughout the country, as well as the space program here in Madison, or in Huntsville, Madison. But it meets twice a week in addition to the regular CrossFit classes, and we do endurance-based training. We do a lot of running, as well as longer workouts of the day, or WODs, like CrossFitters do. But really try to hone in on the metabolic conditioning and kind of build up endurance throughout the week, in addition to the regular CrossFit training and your running training.
Well, let's talk about just CrossFit training. What goes into CrossFit training?
Have
for
you ever
athletes?
done it?
I have not. My son Peyton did.
Yeah,
I have not.
I did it once.
Brutal.
It is brutal.
Yeah, something different than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. When I first started, so I used to do ultra marathons, trail running, half marathons, 50Ks, up to 50 milers, and I constantly felt the niggles and the injuries that would keep you from hitting your training plan every single day.
And the need to lift heavy stuff.
So I would mix
repetitively.
I would mix in some bench presses and curls and
while running ultras.
While running ultras, and try to kind of round out the body, but it never really was enough. So I had a friend that turned me on to CrossFit, and started trying to couple the CrossFit workouts with the endurance training to try to do the trail running and the ultra running and even the road races in addition to the CrossFit, and see how that worked out for me. And it worked out pretty well. I was able to decrease my running volume while increasing this metabolic conditioning and the CrossFit training, and still hit my times. The weight kind of went up. You're going to put on your muscle mass and weight. Me personally, I probably gained 10, 15 pounds from my really ideal running weight, but I've actually gotten faster. I recently ran my fastest 5K road race.
I'm going to ask you, you gained 10 pounds.
10 pounds.
And, I mean, how much do you weigh?
175 about.
Okay,
yeah. I used to be big.
You're lean, though.
I used to be a big guy, about 235.
Yeah.
And at one point I got down to 155 just running and dieting. And now I've coupled it with CrossFit and added some muscle mass. And really, it kind of rounds out your whole body. You feel good running. It really does help out quite a bit.
So we've got John Q. Public comes into the CrossFit Nomad over in Madison. How do you pair them up with the training program to be prepared for a CrossFit program?
Great question. We've got a bunch of experienced coaches over there, and they're going to tailor you and your specific goals and your training plan to what you want to do. So
they're going to beat you till you cry.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, you're kind of laying on the ground. It's hot. You're sweating all over the place. But we've got a bunch of different variety of programs that we could do, and all the workouts are scalable. So the typical class, you come in, you do a group mobility, do a group stretch, you do a group warm-up, and then you do strength and conditioning for the day. Typical CrossFit movements are power cleans or squat cleans and deadlifts and back squats, that sort of thing. And then you do the workout of the day, or the WOD, and some of it's based on strength, but some of it's based on metabolic conditioning, and our coaches really do try to do a good job of programming throughout the week to kind of hit all those spots. So if you go 3 or 4 times a week or twice a week, you're going to get a nice rounded out workout for the week.
And what's the length of the workout when someone steps through the door?
It's about 16 weeks in that first day.
So if they're coming in through the door, we put them through. The typical class is about an hour.
Okay.
Yours is an hour.
Yeah,
it's
it's an hour. The workout, can
Wow.
range from anywhere, depending how fast you are, anywhere between 4 minutes and
in 16 weeks.
We've done some that have been well over an hour before. A lot of running, a lot of lifting in there.
I've got a buddy at work that started about 6 months ago, and I mean, he has changed remarkably.
Yeah. There is a ramp up if you're coming off the street. Our particular gym asked for about a 6 to 8 week ramp up, just to get you familiar with all the movements, and then
I need the
insert you in
ramp
class.
up.
Yeah. And it helps you too. It helps
My
you do all the
rascal
movements.
will get up the ramp with no problem.
Yeah. So we've recently added the endurance training. So that's twice a week. We meet on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and help do the programming with that. And we prescribe an additional workout during the week on Thursdays to kind of do on your own. And we try to follow the typical runner training, where you're going to do intervals once a week at least, and try to do a tempo run once a week, and then the rest of it's mixed up with that longer distance type of workout.
Are all the classes at CrossFit Nomad, are they mixed, or do you have some that are for men, some that are for
They're
women?
mixed, yeah. So
Okay.
there's going to be a big crowd there, between 5 and 25 people, depending on the time of day and what day of the week it is. But all the workouts are scalable. So you've got the prescribed workout, which could be heavy for you. You knock down the weight, you knock down the reps, you knock down how many rounds you do. So it's all terrible. It is terrible.
It is terrible.
Well, you're pushing yourself,
Tailorable.
so-
You can tailor it.
Tailorable. I like
Yeah,
that.
I like it.
You can tailor it to your specific abilities and your
Sure.
needs. Yeah.
So if you're doing there a plank or whatever, and you can, or
They don't
what
do a
what are the
plank.
word- what they
A
call
plank
it?
with like 500 pounds on your back.
Yeah. Someone stepping on
Small
the back.
kids, you
Yeah,
know, we're
exactly.
super family friendly. So
But-
we'll put the kids on the back and
But if someone can't do it, then they do an altered.
yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
alternate
so
It's called
everybody's
laying on the mat.
Yeah,
I got that.
crying, in a
Alternate-
fetal
we
position.
definitely alternate
Yeah.
movements. So we've been Justin's here with me, and we've been ramping up the endurance workouts for the last couple months. He and I are both signed up to do Spartan race. I just personally got done. A couple of the guys from the gym got done doing the Tough Mudder
Okay.
back in I guess that was May up in Tennessee, and that was great. A great experience. Introduction to obstacle course racing.
Chris Harper.
Chris
yeah.
Harper's a friend of mine over in Gunnersville,
Yep.
a dentist that does those. Now, we have the Urban Challenge coming up November 7th, and I notice one of the teams is the CrossFit Nomad.
Right.
So you must have some folks there that have already signed up. And
Yeah.
for someone who's wanting to do maybe their first obstacle course event, can you walk them through the program sometime during the summer and early fall that they'll be able to do the Urban Assault?
That's right. Yeah. So we're gonna ramp up. We're gonna start a new 12-week program towards the end of the summer. We're gonna have two sections. We're gonna have people that are ramping up, that want to build their endurance, and then people that are already, like Justin and myself, that have already been in the program. So we're gonna have two segments. But the intent is to build speed, build endurance, and then build strength, because we don't really know what's going to be in this race, right? At this point, the obstacles are
mystery.
undefined. It's a mystery. It's going to be 5 miles. Do you have to be able to run 5 miles? I don't think so. My personal opinion and what I've seen before during the Tough Mudders and the other obstacle course races, you're going to stop during the race to do the obstacle. So you don't have to be able to run a constant 5 miles, maybe a 5K training program. So we're gonna tailor our program for the people that are just starting, ramping up, that want to do the Urban Assault, and the challenge there to ramp up and build up their mile times, run 400s, run 800 meters, as well as add those CrossFit body weight workouts. So we kind of on the endurance side, we tailor our workouts more towards body weight versus the barbells and everything else.
And one thing we plan on doing with the Assault is to have it to where everyone can do it. And
Yeah.
so just like your workouts, if you're sitting there and you're supposed to do climbing over tires or do
Yep.
some obstacle, if you can't do that, then you do the alternative. You
Yep.
do the burpees or
Yep.
whatever next
Yep.
to it. And
Yeah,
so
burpees are fun. Yeah,
Burpees
that's a
are-
great.
I forgot to mention those
Easy
burpees. They're awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually we're going to do an obstacle, and our obstacle is scaled.
Tell us how to get to CrossFit Nomad.
CrossFit Nomad. You can Google us. You can find us on Facebook at CrossFit Nomad. Great place to work out. Great owners. Great family environment. We have a lot of fun.
Okay. Casey Carter, CrossFit Nomad. Go see him over in Madison. We'll be back after these messages.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama. We're brought to you by Straight to L Brewery.
And we're at Straight to Ale Brewery.
We're there, Lehman Ferry Road here in Huntsville.
Home away from home.
It is, and it is the center of the microbrew culture in North Alabama.
A leader.
I'm Parker Edmiston here with Mr. Doug Tinkham, my friend, and we have one of my, used to be a friend of mine. Now
He's your doctor.
I don't like him anymore. And that
Because
is,
he made you cry.
he made me cry like a baby. Andrew Walker from PhysioWorksHSV.com. Andrew, tell these folks what you did to me.
Well, Parker's an interesting guy. I'm going to start with that. So, some people know him better and some people don't know him at all. So, he has a long history of knee problems. He had a past ACL surgery and he has some back pain. In fact, we actually had to delay his running analysis because he had a flare-up of back pain and had to see someone for that. So, we keep that history in our mind when it comes to doing an evaluation. So we know those things about Parker, and we have to think about those things as we go into the whole evaluation.
Well, I know one thing you did is prior to me meeting you is you sent me a questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go through my history, and I guess you do that with all your clients to have that history before you start
Yours
the
did
evaluation.
have an addendum, though, which most customers
Oh my
do not.
gosh. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the legal side of things, but for me, there's the thoroughness side of things. I wouldn't have, and obviously I could spend the time talking to you when you come, but I can get all that information in an intake form and look at it before you come and know, okay, Parker had an ACL surgery on this date, and he's had this problem then, and whatever else.
He sent me, and he's talking about legal addendums and stuff.
You always got to be.
I signed it and read it one. Oh
And I
my
believe
gosh,
that,
yes,
folks.
sign, okay, but yeah.
I don't specialize in
I
that
don't
type of
specialize
law.
in that
Contracts.
Kind of, yeah, but he did ask me about my history, and as you said, doctor, you know, my knee, my back. I had a flare up with my back, and it had nothing to do with overuse. Is just using my back the wrong way.
Who chops wood in June?
Well, if you're ready for the wintertime, you know.
He's thorough.
Yeah.
He's off the grid.
Yep. So how did you take what I wrote down in my pre-evaluation form and tailor it to me?
Well, I mean, really, the things we kind of see in there are more specific. So the first thing we actually did was a screening evaluation. So there were a few sort of very simple tests that we did. We looked just to see how you look standing, looking at your feet position, your knees, your back, and actually looking at that, you had quite a flat back, and you didn't actually fully extend your right knee, which is something you didn't even realize yourself, I think, from when we talked. And then we do some other little tests, like we do a single leg squat test, which looks at the mechanics, and on the left side, you scored 4 out of 6. On the right side, you couldn't actually complete it because it was actually uncomfortable.
If he was a ship, would the term listing come to mind?
No, I wouldn't quite say that.
Okay.
Salvage. Yeah.
Tugboat.
Yeah.
But, so the single leg squat test was another test we did, and you couldn't do it on the right leg because it was painful. It was uncomfortable.
Do you use like a ball behind the back, one of those, or do you just...
Not to begin
No,
with, my
this
This
is
friend.
is just straight out pistol squat,
Yeah,
I think they call it.
that's-
Yeah, I want to see what he can do.
Who can do that?
Well, he can do on his left.
I want to see that after the show.
But the right, he really couldn't
Bonus
do it.
footage.
And I mean, I tell people, if something's hurting you, I don't want you pushing yourself through and injuring yourself doing the analysis, but we want to get a realistic idea of where you're at. And then knowing his spine problems, I then went into looking at his range of motion, and you can see that he was quite stiff in all different directions of his movement in his low back. He was-
Except at a party.
Yeah.
well, a couple of beers from straight to
Yeah,
hell,
that's
right?
it. Mhm.
And then, in terms of the knee and the specific question about the ACL that he answered, I then did some testing on that to see how stable that knee is at this time. And thankfully, he had this surgery back in the 80s, and Dr. Andrews hadn't even seen it. When he had a second opinion later, this knee was still very, very stable. So that's a really good thing.
It's because they stapled a piece of steel to it, didn't they?
They rerouted the ligament, just pulled it over the knee, and used metal staples.
Yeah, but you
and
can't go through
pounded-
airport security.
Pounded it into the bone.
Well, I mean, he had Dr. Andrews, who's one of the world's
Yeah,
leading
the
surgeons,
best. Yeah,
right?
he's something.
And he hadn't seen it before.
No, he said, I don't know. I'm not
What-
sure why he did it this way.
What part of Czechoslovakia did you have that
Yeah.
surgery?
Yeah, I went down to Tijuana, and over the weekend,
He was being tortured.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with his knee.
But then, the other thing we did in terms of his back, we did some other screening tests, some plank tests, and bridge tests, and those showed that he could get into a basic position, but then when you tried to lift a leg, all of a sudden the form was lost, particularly on the side planks.
Oh, that's I did that yesterday with a
Oh, my
video.
gosh.
That's incredibly hard.
yeah,
right.
Once again, who can do that?
I
Yeah.
can't.
I can demonstrate it to him, and I'm not
He
the biggest
was
runner.
remarkably athletic in his
And
planking.
agile.
Yeah.
But and then to screen up the knee further, we end up doing some muscle testing, and we actually found that Parker was quite limited when it comes to his glute strength.
Yep.
And I think Brenda over there is showing off her planking
I was waiting
skills.
for the leg to go up.
But we found glute weakness when we tested his muscles, and that really fitted in with some of the other things that we saw.
So at this point, it got depressing. But we'll
Just
talk.
because he said you had glute weakness?
Well, I mean, it was a train wreck.
It was the tears,
Yeah.
you know.
But what we'll do is we'll talk in the next segment about what you forecast for me, and we'll be back right after these.
Forecast.
I don't know. We'll be back after these messages. Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Parker Edmiston on Straight to Hell with my good friend Doug Tinkham and the doctor with no mercy, Andrew Walker. From
I thought he was an
PhysioWorks.
angel of mercy.
Well, yeah, if he put me out of my misery, he would
Last
have
week
been.
he had a beautiful young
I
lady
know
here who
it,
said
I know.
he changed her life.
And then I end up with Parker.
Yeah, things change when you do something to somebody. You all right? I feel like a witness. Andrew Walker, PhysioWorks, HSV.com. Andrew did an analysis for me as part of the show, and just to demonstrate to our audience what he can do. You talked last segment about the evaluation. How can you help me?
Well, we did what we didn't get onto, we'll come back to how we can help you. Is we talked about the actual physical exam. We tested the little screening test. We tested your strength out. Then we got onto the actual video running analysis.
Oh,
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
And that's the really interesting bit.
Now, was it a horror movie, a comedy?
Well, actually, it's pretty illuminating. So we basically look at
Illuminating.
I know.
So it was spiritual.
it was.
We look at Parker from both behind and from the side, and I use it like a tool from the University of
I
Virginia.
know the
to do
ladies
that.
like him from behind.
And looking behind, we could see that he had a slight crossover pattern with his arms, which basically means he's losing some energy to rotation in his trunk rather than energy going forward. He actually had a pretty neutral gait pattern in his feet because he wears these Hokas, and he was talking to me about them a little bit to begin with and asking what
He's
I
a
thought about them.
spokesman for Hoka.
He must be.
He's a
I mean,
paid athlete.
they actually did really well. He actually had a really nice pattern with his feet, whereas previously he'd used orthotics with his previous running shoes. He doesn't really have to use orthotics with the Hokas the way it presented, so that's really good. And then on both legs, whenever he landed, his knees dropped in, and then on his left,
one in particular.
well, on his left leg, his knee dropped in, but also his trunk falls to the side, and then he compensates with his spine, so he ends up in this really kind of hunchman-like sort of.
And yet, he beats me at every race.
Well, tell the story, Doug,
All
about
right.
how we got here.
So we were working a race and stopped at a coffee shop to get a well-needed shot of espresso. And we were walking up to the coffee shop, and a lady came out of one of the storefronts in front of the coffee shop with a dog. And the dog was walking with this terrible one-legged limp. And Parker was walking behind the dog, and they had the same gait, the same limp, and I didn't know which one to shoot.
Yeah.
So I shot the dog.
Yeah. Either one needed.
That's generous.
Either one needed the help. Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, so that's looking from behind. The other thing we then do is look from the side. And when we look from the side, we can see that Parker didn't really fully extend his hip, and that correlated back to what we found with the glute weakness. And we also found that he had a cadence of about 160, which is a little on the lower side. And if he,
Because he was running 17-minute miles.
but basically, like lower cadence running tends to lead to more of a mid to rear foot stance, which loads up the knee more. Whereas if he increases the cadence, it actually will take him more to a forefoot
Now,
stance.
do you shorten the stride to increase that cadence, or pick up the pace?
You pick up. Well, you don't want to pick up the pace necessarily because you're going to struggle. But the stride length is one thing. But there's actually a really good tool out there that you can get for on the iPhone or on the Android that will actually. It's called. I think it's Jog Tunes, if I remember rightly.
Like a metronome type?
It's basically it works out what music will be appropriate for the cadence you want.
Chances are
Outlawed in every race known to man, but I'll
only
use
if
it.
they know.
Use it in training.
One thing that was a little odd, and I forgot to tell you that day that that you evaluated me, is when you're on a treadmill that doesn't show you the pace, you're not sure. For me, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable.
It's hard to know on a treadmill. I mean, 10-minute miles on a treadmill feels like you're flying.
So, I didn't know, well, okay, I feel comfortable, but should I go faster?
You need talking to the microphone, though.
I said that.
That's much better.
Yep. I didn't know if I should go faster or what. I felt comfortable. You said run at a comfortable pace, and 18.5-minute pace is fairly comfortable.
If you can drink espresso and eat a Danish, you're going too slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you make a fair point there. Running on a treadmill does cause some slight differences, and I think if you go too fast on the treadmill, it's going to actually probably cause problems that aren't necessarily true problems.
Yeah.
So that's why I tend to tell people try and get to where you feel you are 10% below what your race pace is, and that will probably be close to where we want you to be for a good, thorough analysis.
Okay. Well, I thought that your analysis, and I guess we can go over more next week on that. I thought it was very, very thorough, very professional. I appreciate what you did for me, and I look forward to talking to you in the future about ways to help me run without pain. We'll be back after these messages here on Swim Bike Run Alabama.
Skyward